Live is Life from Opus on Revenge of the 80s Radio. The track not only hit the top of several charts around the world, it became a celebratory anthem for decades to come. The band has been together since 1973 and is still in demand today. With me now is Opus's frontman, Herwig Rudisser. Welcome to the show.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, hello. Hello, Chris.
Thank you for coming on with us. Opus formed back in 1973, and you joined in 79. How did you hook up with the band, Wally?
Well, Opus was founded by Walter Bachkönig, the bass player at this time, as a kind of garage band in, 1973. And Ewald, Kurt, and Günther was also in the band at this time, and a second guitar player named John Palier. So what do you want? Something from the older years? So at this time, the band was a little bit influenced by classical music because they all were trained on the instruments in music schools. And Walter Bachkönig gave the band the name Opus, the designation of enumeration of classical works like Opus 1, Opus 2, and so on. Well, I joined the band in 1978 because of an advertisement in the local newspaper where the band was searching for a singer. And I went for a short rehearsal and they took me. So,
what were you doing before Opus?
I was the singer in another band in Graz. It is the second biggest city in Austria. And I knew Opus before because I saw some concerts of them, and I read in the newspaper they were looking for a singer, and I said to myself, okay, that's a nice band, so let's go for it. And they took me.
They had quite a great resume before changing over a little bit, and I want to talk about that because Opus was a heavily classical music influenced band in the earlier part of their tenure, the 73 through 79.
Mm-hmm.
But what was the catalyst, Wally, for Opus's creative change toward more contemporary music in and around 1980?
Yeah, they also played songs from Deep Purple and that kind of stuff, but they always were looking for a singer. And when I joined the band, we started to change the music. We had our own little recording studio, with the Revox 4-track at this time. And we decided in these years we decided to make a rock and roll music and music that maybe can conquer the world. So we decided at this time also that the lyrics we will write in English. And we had our first concerts at the end of the 70s. And we got our first contract 1980 with Phonogram, and then we produced our first album called Daydreams in Germany. It only sold about 5,000 copies in Austria, but that was not so bad for a newcomer band in Austria because for gold you need to sell about 25,000 copies. But the company terminated our contract and we were looking for a new one and a new producer at this time.
That was good news, though, and I'm with Herwig Rudisser of Opus on Revenge of the 80s Radio. Wally, the good news was after losing that one contract, you find a new producer in Peter Muller and you get another contract.
Yeah, you're definitely right. He appears in our life as he was a well-known producer in Austria, and we gave him our latest song material, and he was so excited, and we did the next, 6 albums with him, I guess. And we were very happy to have him as a producer. He had all this newest stuff in his studio that we needed to record our songs, and we were very happy with him.
You were a huge hit in Austria and soon all over Europe shortly after all of this comes together. You also caught the attention of Falco, probably the biggest modern international star to come from Austria. How did you hook up with him?
Yeah, Austria is such a small country. Just 8 million live here. And Vienna is the capital of Austria, and all the record companies are there. And, we nearly knew each musician in Austria because there are not so many. And Falco was playing in different bands at that time, in the 80s, at the beginning of the 80s, and we knew him very well. And I guess in 1982, no, it was later, he called us for doing some tracks on his Young Romans album. I don't know if we know this, because he knew us as good singers. We had a lot of good choirs on our album, and he was an Opus fan at the first time. And he called us, and we had a lot of fun. And
that's
sadly,
right.
he passed away much too early.
Very early, and as you said before, Opus can be heard on the Younger Romer album.
Yes.
Falco did pass on very early, and I'm sure that was a shock through the entire music community of Austria.
Of course. It was, we couldn't believe it, but we have to face the truth. Nobody knows exactly what was going on there in the Dominican Republic. I guess he died for a car accident, they told us. It was in the news everywhere, but, it happens.
Herwig Rudisser, the lead singer for Opus, is with me on Revenge of the 80s Radio. Straight ahead, we'll talk about the track that catapulted the band into international acclaim on Revenge of the 80s Radio. Whiteland from 1987 by Opus. With me is Opus lead singer Herwig Wally Rudisser. Herwig, we talked about Opus's musical change and the first recordings of the band's new era, but then came your biggest song, the one that brought you fame around the globe, Live is Life. I understand it was premiered during a concert at Oberwart?
Yes. It was in September 1984, and we had our 11th birthday, the band's birthday, the 11th band's birthday. And Ebert was in Ibiza for holidays, and I don't know how it happened. He told me he was sitting on the beach, and suddenly he had this title, He said, "Life is Life." He had this title in his mind, and not the song. And he took a guitar and had a few harmonies, and that was the song. And we said, okay, well, what's the saying? What should it be? And he said, okay, we have a concert in Oberwart in September, so let's do this song like a birthday song for the audience, for all the fans who will come to Oberwart. Yes, and we played the song in Oberwart the first time, and there was a mistake, because at this time we had this kind of 2-inch tapes, the big machines, no digital, nothing, and the time we played the song, the reel was at the end, So after the concert was done, not the concert, but after the concert was done, our producer Peter Muller came and said, "Hey, if you need this song on your live album, you have to play it again because the reel was at the end, and I had to change the reels for the new stuff, and and we did this song twice, and that's why. So the audience knew the song, and they were shouting and clapping their hands, and that was the story of Life is Life, the birth of Life is Life.
The audience really got into it, but when did you know it would become a hit?
Peter Muller was not so excited about this title because it was totally different to all the other Opus stuff. But he said, okay, if you want to have it on the album, so let's do it. And yeah, the radio stations liked the song, and after, I think after 2 or 3 weeks after the release, the song was #1 in Austria, and 3 or 4 weeks later it was #1 in Germany. And then I knew, if this song is #1 in Germany, it can be a hit all over the world, and that's what happens.
In the video, and it's a live video, it's a performance video, it tells a fun story, though. The highlight, I'll say, was not how the street ruffians came around to love the song and the hillbilly band stirred in amazement at the performance. No, it was your superb gymnastic skills, Herwig, as you went to the mic with a cartwheel. So
yeah.
So did you practice that?
I can do this now, but at this time, it's about, I don't know, 35 years ago. So something like this. Yeah. In this time, I entered the stage, and yeah, with this gymnastics, as you said. But the people liked it, and it was fun. And also the story of this video, it was also the video, it was funny because of the hillbilly band, they performed Life is Life, and the audience was booing.
Yep.
Okay, and all the rockers, we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun making this video. Yes.
But that cartwheel was Olympic quality. I mean, that was perfect. Gymnastics team all together. All right. I don't know if anybody can just redo that one. Life is Life does lend itself well to orchestras too, as I've seen in recent years. You've posted a lot of YouTube videos where you've done this song with major classical orchestras.
The meaning of this concert was totally different. We talked about White Land, the song, and we wrote this song in 1987, I guess, for Greenpeace, because at this time the Antarctic contract was threatened to be cancelled by different countries. They want to exploit the resources of the continent, and this would affect the whole environment in this beautiful, unspoiled era. And then we got a line through to, how could I say, Tonight at the Opera. It was a benefit concert in the Opera House of Graz, and all the income goes to an association which is called Menschen für Menschen, and they were collecting money, special for schools which are difficult to access in the highland of Ethiopia. That was the line between the Antarctica, and we are doing not so few benefits, but when we will do it, we try to make it the best, And that was the line between White Land and now Tonight at the Opera, what will on schedule now, I think, at the 19th of December, again in Graz. And yes, by the first time it was 2009, I guess. We decided to record it live with the whole orchestra, and so now I named the name of the conductor. It was Christian Kolonovich. He was very well known also because he was working with Herbert Grönemeyer, and he was working with the Scorpions for a long time. And he is also a good friend of us, and we made this together, and the result can speak for itself, I think.
Exactly. And a couple of years later, after Live is Life was originally recorded, Laibach recorded 2 covers of the song on their Opus Dei album. It's a very different take, their style changing the tone drastically, but interesting and musically spectacular nonetheless. What did you and the song's writer, Ewald Fleger, think of it when you first heard the covers?
Yeah, Laibach. Yes. What should I say to Laibach? It was the loudest band I ever heard. Yes, the bass killed my stomach. I really don't know what they meant at this time. I don't know. I can't follow them. I heard they have played now in Pyongyang for Kim Jong Il.
Yeah, they played in North Korea.
I don't know what they are exactly doing there. I have no idea. Even to the cover of Life is Life. To me, I saw the video a few times. I saw the band. The video, it reminds me of Leni Riefenstahl a little bit. But I have no idea what they want to transport with this kind of arrangement. I don't know.
We did just talk about White Land, the track you recorded in '87, and the success after Live is Life brought you around the world again. You toured with Stevie Nicks, even played on top of a mountain, as a matter of fact, and sold out some concerts several times in Moscow in years to follow.
Yeah.
But your 1996 album, Love, God, and Radio, introduced another new sound for Opus.
Yeah, it was a kind of concept album. We decided to go back a little bit in time, back to the 60s. So we use sitars and sounds from the 60s, and it was just joking about the hippie era, I would say, and yeah, just for fun. There was a single on it, Just for Fun, and all that stuff. It was, going back to the 60s, but it was not so spectacular.
Herwig Rudisser is with me on Revenge of the 80s Radio. He's the lead singer for Opus. The band continued on, and you still play today. How did you manage to keep the core? Now, there were very few changes, but how did you manage to keep the core, all of you guys together, for so long?
I don't know. I don't know. It happens, We're now together since, 40 years or something like that. Yes, we had our good times, we had our bad times, but we're still together as a band, having fun, We had a lot of invitations, concerts, in Europe, and TV shows in Europe, and there's always a reason for booking Opus for a concert, I guess, or for a TV show, like 80 shows, and all the people know Life is Life, of course, but besides Opus, there's also a second life, Ewald is doing a fabulous job because he and his wife, Andrea, they are all checking all the things which are associated with Opus, like contracts for TV shows or live concerts. and checking all the posts. And Ewald is also doing the publishing work, because most of the Opus songs are in our own publishing company. And Kurt spends his time in a more spiritual way now. He's practicing as a Buddhist now for years, but always he likes to join the band when there's need for it. And together with Ewald, he's checking all the financial work for Opus. And Günther, our drummer, besides Opus, is still working as a drum teacher, and he tries to give the kids a good education and a fine sense for them. And for me, when we have no concerts or other work for Opus is to be done, then I'm looking after my little ranch up in the Austrian mountains, where I do some forestry. Or, of course, sometimes I'm just watching the wheels.
Forestry, so you got into that.
Yeah. My father gave it to me, when he passed away. And that's also a work that has to be done. We have, now in Europe, we have sometimes little hurricanes, so there's a lot of damage, and you have to put it away, and we have to, there are thousands of young trees, which have to be planted, and that's a good, let me say, that's the other side of the medal, That's a good life for coming down, from all this touring or studio work. If it's enough, I went up to the mountains and have a good time there. And I guess the other boys, they're also very smooth, very glad with their life, that life is life has given us as a present,
Well, the Opus was featured in the Falco 60 album collection earlier this year. That's in honor of his 60th birthday, released in February of 2017. A couple of your songs with Falco are in that. Anything else happening with Opus down the road?
Yes, we are now preparing, as I told you before, for I guess it's the 5th tonight at the Opera, the benefits concerts in the Opera House. And there's also a lot of work to done, because all the score has to be done for the orchestra, and it's a benefit concert, so we have searching for sponsorings, for sponsors, and all that stuff to get the highest amount of money we can get for the people in Ethiopia. That's the work for the next 1.5 months, I guess.
And you can find out more about that and what's going on with Opus on their website, opus.at. That's opus.at. Chris Cordani here. This is Revenge of the 80s Radio. Herwig Rudisser, thank you again for coming on with us on Revenge of the 80s Radio.
Thank you, Chris. Have a good time. And keep on rocking.
It was a lot of fun. You keep on rocking, too. Let's play one of the tracks that you did with Falco on the 60th anniversary album, which was also from your Opus and Friends 1985 concert album. Opus and Falco together performing Flying High live on Revenge of the 80s Radio.